Rolling. Welcome to a brand new episode. How did we get here? And tonight, oh man, it is a star-studded night, and we're talking to two creators we've really wanted to have on here for a while. Kind of cool, serendipitous that they finally are able to hop on together. It's a cool pairing. Of course, we have Mr. David Pepose and Alex Cormack, and
Hey.
they're here to talk about their book hit shelves. Very spooky stuff. The Devil That Wears My Face. Going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves, kind of talk themselves up a little bit though. Go ahead and start, David.
Yeah. Hi, I'm David Pepose. I'm the writer of The Devil That Wears My Face, along with other books such as Moon Knight, City of the Dead, Savage Avengers, and the upcoming Punisher relaunch over at Marvel, and as well as indie books such as Spencer and Locke,
Mm,
Scout's Honor, and our Ringo Award-winning Kickstarter series, The OZ.
mm. There it is.
It's good stuff.
Hi, I'm Alex Cormack. I'm the artist on The Devil That Wears My Face. Along with that, I have another book coming out called Drive Like Hell, out on Wednesday, and another book coming out next month called Ghosts in the Water. But along with that, I've done a few books called Road of Bones, Sea of Sorrows, Breath of Shadows, Sing, Crimson Cage, and a whole slew of other ones that I will think of. That I'll think of after this, thinking, I should have mentioned that.
Oxymoron's one that hops to mind.
Oxymoron is there's an oldie there for you.
Duels.
Duel,
Pretty
yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah, Duel. Let's see, some goofy Weed Magic. Go real old school and go like Future Proof, and I play the bad guy and all those. But
Nice.
those are some real oldies.
After
But-
this interview, Alex is actually going to pick up another book.
Yeah, I'm drawing
I
like
mean-
me as we're talking. Yeah,
I mean, that is quite a feat because I know that, illustrators a lot of them have a hard time meeting deadlines because of how time consuming it is and stuff. So I just gotta say, it's impressive the workload you put out there a year. Like, you're so prolific compared to a lot of other artists. Like, you just bang it out and like quality stuff. Like, sometimes you see guys that are on tight deadlines. You see they're a little more selective about which panels they really work on, and they kind of sometimes it can show. But your stuff is just flawless, man. And I'd like to say, I like to call you Alex. Let there be blood, Cormac. I mean, if you want someone to draw your comic with lots of blood, Alex is the man to go see, because I don't think I've seen one of your books yet where, I mean, the printers must have ran out of red ink printing the books you draw, because, man, you put a lot of blood in all your books. It's crazy.
yeah, it's that's a nice thing. Coloring digitally, I don't have to worry about running out of red ink.
Yeah.
That might be true. I'm trying to think of one that doesn't. And I was gonna say that Weed Magic book, which is like a Cheech and Chong type comedy.
Mm.
And I was like, no, there's like a zombie monkey in there at some point. And he's pretty good. So yeah, no, I guess everyone does.
Shout out to Cookies and Shats. Hey, Cookie.
Mhm.
So, man, you guys just, it's the first time you guys have teamed up on a book?
Yep.
Nice. So, why a possession exorcism book? Where did you get the idea for that, David? Like, why did you pick that subject matter for this?
Well, I've wanted to do a horror book for quite some time. For those who are familiar with my work, I've done crime, I've done fantasy, I've done a bit of sci-fi. I've even done a little bit of all ages work. And horror felt like the missing food group for comics that I hadn't tackled yet. And so Mad Cave Studios, particularly Mark London and Chris Fernandez, they've been big supporters of my work since my first book, Spencer and Locke.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to team up. And so we had been talking for quite some time. I think it was New York Comic Con 2 years ago that they finally said, listen, David, we want to do something with you. We've got a bunch of creators who are joining up. Cullen Bunn, Steve Orlando, Chris Sabella, just people I really respected. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'd like to join up. And so as we were batting around ideas, we really gravitated quickly towards The Devil That Wears My Face.
Mm.
And for me, the thing that I was really excited about with this project was, of course, I wanted to do a horror book, but I've also wanted to do a body swap book for some time.
Mm. Okay, yeah.
I love Face Off. That's one of my favorite movies. And I love the structure of a body swap movie, because then you really do have two protagonists. You have sort of a parallel story structure, and you get to watch kind of two fishes out of water having to reacclimate quickly to their new setting.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because I remember on socials on Twitter, someone made a comment how they thought the priest kind of looked like Nick Cage from Face Off, and I remember seeing that comment, and it started a whole like kind of thread there where people were just exchanging stuff. So it's funny you're saying how you love that movie, and it does
movie.
that one scene of them with the rosemary and stuff. It definitely kind of gives off those vibes. So that's pretty funny. That.
And yeah, I think it's just it was kind of a fun, different thing that I'd never tackled before. And yeah, I mean, as far as this is Alex and I's first collaboration, but I've wanted to work with Alex for years. I've been a fan of his since his work on Sync, and as we've gotten to know each other in the convention scene, especially through our mutual friend Rich Duick, I've just been like, oh, this guy's like really nice on top of being so talented. And so I remember as we were kind of getting a war chest of scripts together, Mad Cave asked, who do you think would be the best fit for this series? And my immediate thought was, oh, Alex would be terrific for this. And thankfully, I was able to kind of flag down Alex on Twitter. I just kind of pitched him the story over Twitter DM, and we were off to the races. And I'm so excited to see how people have been responding to Alex and I's work on this, because it really does feel like the chocolate and the peanut butter. It really I think we're really it's been a fun book to see it coming all together.
I really like that you took the historical route with it. I like the history that you use, and that you play with the politics of the old Catholic Church, like with the exorcist fighting with the inquisitors. That was all really neat, really fun stuff, and really cool to see Alex stretch his legs and play in a historical setting like that, because with a really talented, really cool horror artist, it's really neat to see like those kind of. I find something just horrifying about that era, especially of like Catholic horror. It's particularly terrifying in my opinion, and seeing it rendered by like an exceptional artist, it's always very, very cool, and like kind of helps this book stand a little bit apart from some of the other Exorcist stuff that I've seen like recently, and historically kind of reminds me of Ken Russell's The Devils, but like probably a little more lighthearted, I'd say, hopefully.
I don't know if lighthearted is ever the word that I would ever use. But for me, it was immediate. I absolutely wanted to do this as a period piece. I think as I was discussing with Mad Cave, kind of the initial elevator pitch of all this, I don't think they anticipated that this was going to be a period piece. But I was just like, once you start doing this in the present, there's a lot of technology elements that kind of wind up getting baked into it. It's hard to do like a body swap today when you've got like cell phones and biometric, readings and easy blood tests. Whereas doing it in as a period piece, it makes it a lot easier for a character like Legion to kind of slip in under the radar. So yeah, I did a lot of research in the Catholic Church. I read up on the entire history of the Catholic Church since its beginning. I read up on every single pope. And so, Pope Clemente in 1740, that was a real pope. And he was blind and bedridden by the end of his tenure. And he was conducting church business, from his bed. And I just felt like that was like a cool, it was a representation of a church in decline. The church back then, their finances were in shambles. And there was a kind of growing threats from the Freemasons. There was even, there was unrest, I should say, going on in the Roman ghetto. Cholera was a thing. So it felt like a powder keg, and having a character like Legion infiltrating, it really is kind of the spark that might set the whole thing ablaze.
Yeah, the savageness and the just the rage, it comes through. Like Alex channeled that pretty good, and I love the interpretation of how you show the demon, like with all the eyeballs, kind of almost like a spray or a cloud or a mist coming out from them. As I love that. That's like such a new kind. I don't know if I'd say it's new, but it's pretty original, because I haven't really seen that before. You always see like
in Helsing
a black aura or like something like that, but like having like all, it's pretty cool. Like it definitely gives a creepy vibe. Like
I
Like
gotta
all
give
these
Dave the
demons
credit
are
for that
watching
one
you.
because
Yeah.
that was his idea. That was all in the early script, early things. Like, yeah, I want like eyes, and I remember thinking, like, okay, how am I gonna do this? And I was like, first handful of drawings, I'm like, it looks like googly eyes. Like, this is not working. Like, I gotta figure this sucker out. And yeah, like basically once starting to draw the book, even like when that first scene was coming, like I was like sweating a little bit, like, all right, this has got to look. I got to make sure this looks cool because if it looks stupid, that just ruins the whole thing. And I tried like the first time I drew it, I think it was like page 5 or something like that in that first issue, and I think I did like 4 or 5 rounds that on that page. Like, no, that's not. And then something just clicked. I'm like, oh, that works. Okay, cool. And now now it's just like, done.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was 100. I 100% credit. I give the day for that one because I probably, I don't know if I even thought of that. I'd probably gone there with that cloud thing, like, oh yeah, spooky.
Yeah.
Well, that effect came into being because we're using the biblical demon legion, which is really a composite demon of like 1,000 different demons. And so I thought, like that would be kind of a cool way to show like this villain. It's really just a multitude of evil. And so yeah, Alex did such a great job with it, and it really has kind of like I like the way that like Bruce Wayne like casts a shadow with Batman ears. Like that's kind of how the effect that Legion will have over the course of this series. And it's a really cool, just like visual signature.
Yeah, you definitely get that feel like of all these demons kind of watching or like watching you or like looking at you. It's kind of a creepy vibe for sure. Yeah, really, I love that aspect of it. The visual aspect of it, that was great. Yeah. So really like, and I don't know, like just the facial expressions. Like I know I've seen your other work, so you're good at like just those people, like just like the mad look in the eyes and like just the like they're not there anymore. They've become like a beast, right? And like it's like that final panel of Road of Bones, where just that crazy look on his face, like like it's so great. So and you definitely brought that vibe and channeled that into this book. So
thank you so much.
It's really cool. Yeah.
No, nothing to it.
So did you try to avoid watching, like, let's say when you came up with the idea and you started writing this book, did you try to avoid like watching movies like exorcism movies, possession movies, or did you did the opposite? You just dug right in and okay.
I tend to, whenever I'm coming up with a new concept, I try to watch everything that is in that wheelhouse. And so I watched everything up to, I had already finished writing the majority of the book by the time The Pope's Exorcist came out. So I haven't watched that. But
The Pope's Exorcist, which one is that?
That's the one with Russell Crowe.
That's the Russell Crowe one, right? Okay.
It's hilarious, man. It is so hilarious.
That one I haven't had a chance to watch yet. I sort of told myself I'll wait until the book's done and then I'll give it a shot. But yeah, of course I watched The Exorcist. I watched the Haunting of Emily Rose, the Autopsy of Jane Doe. Jeffrey Dean Morgan did a really cool Jewish possession story called The Possession. There was one with Aaron Eckhart that I watched. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Even like the cheesier ones, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and End of Days. Like an action exorcist. A Constantine. There was a British show, I believe, is British or Canadian, that I want to say was called. I don't remember what it was called. I'll have to look that up. But anything I could kind of get my hands on, and then also anything that would kind of help me flesh out the Vatican as a place. So the young Pope with Jude Law, the Angels and Demons movies, anything that would kind of help me learn the lay of the land a little bit. And that kind of, taking all that in, really kind of cramming all that really kind of helped me synthesize what I wanted to say with this book. And then also Body Swap, stuff like Face Off, the movie Freaky.
Friday,
both the original and the horror remake. It's just, I tend to be omnivorous with my taste, because I feel like I do draw from a lot of pop culture, and that really kind of helps me figure out, like, okay, this is how one person did it. Here's how another person did it. And like, are there any pieces here that I want to use in my thing? Is there something that I don't like that I kind of want to veer in the other direction? And yeah, usually that kind of helps. My process is always, I try to take two big influences, and that way, if I'm stuck in a rut, I can kind of switch gears to one or the other. But yeah, I tend to watch a lot of movies as part of my process.
Well, that's cool, man. Because I know some people like to like avoid completely, try to like, so there's no influences, and try to, and it's kind of cool that you take the opposite
I
approach
love
where
my
you just
influences. I wear them on my sleeve.
completely immerse yourself in like almost an overstimulation of it, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I
It's
like
really as
that.
much as I can take.
There's nothing worse than like starting a project and then you like a month later you watch something like that's exactly what I just did, and
Yeah, that too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You avoid, but just by happenstance, because right, I mean, we're so many people in the world, and any two people can have the same idea. It just happens that we're all watching the same movies. We're all influenced by culturally by a lot of the same things. So it's just normal that these seeds get planted in multiple people, and that same idea can pop into any one of our heads, right, at any given time. So yeah, that's true. That's true. That's it. I didn't think of it that way. Just to avoid not copying, but just repeating something that maybe someone else did that you weren't aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, or figuring out, if there is any overlap, just how do you put your own unique spin on it?
Right.
Yeah.
And because yeah, I feel like that's when you're creating, you really are, you're taking all your influences as fuel. And so I think it's you really you have to keep kind of that furnace fed as much as you can, as often as you can, as best you can, and really just like when you're working out, you are what you eat. I do feel like as a creator, you very much are that your influences, the sum of your influences, and the things you consume.
Yeah. And it kind of gets you jazzed up anyways. Like when you watch some of this stuff and you're just like, oh, I love what they did there. And I kind of want to try something like this. And like, oh, that's like a neat shot right there. I'm going to put that over here. And like this thing we're working on, all that.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, after you.
I was going to say one of my favorite moments with working with you, Alex, it was, without spoiling the issue, there's a sword fight. And I remember you saw that script and you were like, oh man, I'm going to go watch some Errol Flynn tonight. And I was like, this is the perfect person to be working on this book with. I immediately, because it's like I having a collaborator who has the enthusiasm for it, it really does show on the page, but also somebody who is able to kind of take these other pop culture staples that I wouldn't even thought of, and really is committed to the work and committed to doing it well and doing it right. It shows on the pages. And I would say our first issue is the quiet one. Things are ramping up in a pretty significant way. Alex just sent me a sequence from a later issue, and I was just like, holy shit, like this is sorry, sorry if this is a family podcast.
No, that's fine. It's fine. You more than you could be a complete sailor on this show. It doesn't matter.
I was really blown away on a sequence that I was like, okay, this was like kind of cool to write, and then seeing the way that Alex interpreted it, I was like, oh, this is so much better than I had envisioned it. And so yeah, it really is. It feels like a game of pickup with like a really talented player. And so it's been a really fun experience to just like play off of each other. And I think that speaks to Alex as a creator.
So is the demon going to do some swashbuckling later on in this series?
Oh yeah,
somebody might.
Yeah.
Well, I think the cover for issue 3, you kind of get a hint at that, right?
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
He's coming down with the
the sword or the knife or something.
Yeah. We won't spoil too much. I mean, the Count of Monte Cristo is another big influence on this book, and so yeah, it's sort of when Father Vieri winds up sort of being forcibly body swapped after an exorcism gone wrong, he's determined to get his body back, and the way that his plan for that is kind of one of my favorite elements of the whole book, because there's so much said about the rules of exorcism. You kind of know it through pop culture. But I found, as I was doing research on it, there's mythology involving possession, that really they are kind of opposite sides of the same coin. And so getting to kind of play those rules against each other, as Vieri's trying to figure out, like, how do I get my body back? Especially when, without spoiling too much, there's going to be some complications that is going to make things very, very difficult for Vieri to even get within like 100 feet of this guy. And you'll see it in the preview on issue 2 in the back of anybody who bought issue 1. Yeah, things. Let's just say Vieri has more weaknesses than he thought, and he's gonna have to overcome them in the series.
Yeah, but like you're saying now, I'm starting to think back. Like now, you named off a lot of influences and stuff, and I was thinking, because now you're talking about the body swapping, right? And how like the rules of like possession, exorcisms, and usually it's portrayed as a slow, drawn out process, right? Where the person's fighting it off and this and that. But then you get other movies. It just popped into my head, like Fallen, where the devil or the demon or whatever, just with a touch, a brush of the hand can switch bodies, right? And it's just as easy as that. Like there's no battle, there's no like, it's just like, all right, I'm just taking over now, like, so
yeah. Well, we're somewhere in the middle with that one, and you'll get to learn more and more about it in later issues. But so suffice to say, there's a reason why. I mean, by virtue of it being a body swap, that's why Legion is sort of able to take on this body so instantaneously. And he sees it as like, oh, it's kind of a cushy gig, in terms of getting where he needs to go. And as you'll see later on, like there are reasons why he wouldn't want to take on any other body. He's got a mission, and the question is how many people are going to die before he gets to it.
Yeah. Well, he's already off to a decent start.
What was the right now?
What was the body count of that first? How many priests did he kill in that first issue? 3 before.
He's killed 2 priests.
2 priests.
No, the third. Then that was the third priest.
That was the third one, right?
Yeah. There was 3 total in that first book. So
let's see.
It's early. It's early. Yeah.
Issue 2. I'm trying to think of how many people. Let's see. Oh no, he's killed 4 people by the end of the first issue.
Yeah,
and then he kills.
Yeah, let's see, issue 2.
2 more in the next issue.
Okay. Yeah. So
and I'm just thinking of everybody that gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Issue 3. There's a lot of them. It's just there's a lot. Alex sends me every time. How many beheadings do we have? We have at least 4.
Yeah, we off the top of my head. I think there's I know 4 that I can think of right now.
I think we're at 4, but you would keep sending me like these Austin Powers memes of like,
the whole
this is how you not the time to lose one's head, and I was just cracking up. This is all the stuff that I would have thought, oh, maybe I'll send this, but I'm like, oh no, like I don't want to be embarrassing. And then you said this, I'm like, perfect, no notes.
No notes, perfect.
Yeah. I was really happy to see you come back to because I know you've been working on for Marvel now. You did Savage Avengers. Now you're going to be working on Punisher and stuff, and that Moon Knight book you were talking about. So to see you come back to an indie publisher and do an indie book was like, I was like, oh yeah. So he's not gonna you're still gonna come back and bring some of your original ideas there and really flex your muscles there. So I was like, nice. We're not going to lose him to the big 2, like just exclusively big 2 stuff. So.
I see it as 2 different muscle groups. When you're doing stuff for the big 2 or any sort of license, there are certain expectations that readers and retailers will have that you have to navigate, and you're also operating within a shared universe with one that already has a lot of pre-established continuity, so you're able to come and draw from that. So I consider that to be almost like a sprint. Whereas when you're doing creator-owned work and original work, it really is a marathon. You have to kind of build this thing with your own 2 hands, and there is no real continuity for you to draw from. I think that's why I lean so much on my influences. Is that's at least some place for me to kind of bounce off of. But yeah, I feel like doing one makes me better at the other. So I feel like, as long as I'm able to, of course, I'm going to keep doing both. Because I think they feed into each other. And I have more creator-owned ideas that I want to do. And so, it's just a matter of just finding the time to do all of them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest trick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you'll ever jump on a big 2-book, Alex, but there's definitely a few properties I could see you tackle. And
Ghost Rider. We were talking about it the other night. Ghost Rider.
Yeah, that would be one good one, maybe, because just your, like, after reading like Crimson Cage, like just like fights with all the blood and everything, maybe like a Punisher where it's more up and personal and dirty, where it's less gunplay and more like knife play and stuff like that, like a Punisher book like that. Like I could see you getting like with some of the grittier, dirtier characters in the big 2 and really putting your nasty stamp on it, like, and really, yeah.
I think they'd be really good at Moon Knight, especially after seeing Declan Chevy's work.
Imagine all that blood on the white suit. Oh, that'd be pretty fucking nice. Yeah.
Ring out the cape.
It's scene where it's just like, drops the suit off at the dry cleaners. Here, do your best.
ShamWow.
There's another one. That's
The Savage ShamWow. I like that. The Savage.
There's an extra 5 if you can make it work.
The first issue, his suit is white, and then the rest, because of all the blood, his suit turns pink because he can't get all the blood out. Pink. So Moon Knight's pink now.
Yeah.
He's not rich like Bruce Wayne, so you can't
mix the whites and the colors in the wash, and boom.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have used alt temperature, man.
Yeah.
Printing money.
It's not gonna work with just throwing it all cold,
Yeah. So you guys both went to Comic-Con. What was that? 2 weeks ago? Last week?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
It's been 2 weeks already.
Yeah, your book came out like the week leading in, right? The Wednesday in Comic-Con was that weekend. So how was the reception at Comic-Con for this book?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I think it's been fantastic. I mean, I think I was just I think it's the single highest reviewed first issue I've ever done. And I think people have really responded nicely to the book. The fact that like we're only just getting started, I think is really promising. The fact that we've just, every issue we're trying to do something like have a couple of moments that are going to freak you out.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's Johnny's theory. He thought the book was so scary, someone was reading it, and they actually shat on the floor. They got so scared at Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's sorry about that, everyone. That was
our bad.
It might have been Father Vieri himself, man. Like
they couldn't contain the. I mean, maybe they were possessed. You don't know.
That's something I can see Legion doing. Like,
take this, comic nerds.
Poop at your con. I told you that's the inevitable sequel. The devil that pooped in my Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled with the reception of the book. I mean, I feel like trying to get traction these days, especially, it's very difficult. It's very challenging for an indie book. Even compared to just a few years ago, like even when I first started, because doing comic book journalism, doing comic book reviews, it's a labor of love. It's very often unpaid, and so I have nothing but respect for the people who do this day in and day out. And so the fact that people have been giving our book a shot and have been responding the way that they have been, it's very heartening to me as a creator. And I think it speaks to you have the right team and the right story, and magic happens. And I just feel very proud and grateful to be able to tell this story with Alex and Justin Birch and Mike Martz and Christina Harrington, our editors.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for people to see, to respond to issues 2 through 6, and see how we plan on sticking the landing, because I think it's a really fun twist on the exorcism kind of story.
Yeah, I'm especially looking forward to even the stuff drawn today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to what people think of that.
It's so good. It's so good. It's all I'll say is it's kind of a staple action trope, but the way that Alex draws it, I've never seen anything like it in a comic before. And it's, without spoiling too much, it is a staple that I don't often see in comics, and I always try to throw into my comics. But the way Alex did it, I was like, holy hell. Like, it's really cool. It's very cool. So can't wait. Issue 4, you'll see it.
And this is going to go for 6 issues.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, 6 issues. It's fully self-contained. We didn't want to overstay our welcome and drag out the story any longer than it needed. But Mad Cave was also really cool in giving us this runway, so we're not, nobody can feel shortchanged about our story. We're really kind of digging in to both Vieri and Legion's respective trajectories across this book, and so it's fun seeing them together in the same room, but also we're able to really kind of draw out the tension by keeping them apart. And so you're kind of constantly thinking, like, when's Vieri and Legion going to go head to head again? And so it really makes those fireworks really crackle.
6 issues is a great time period for a miniseries for horror anyways. So I think it's like the perfect amount of time. So that's a really good format for it.
It really allows you to expand the story and really maybe dig in to create more atmosphere, because you're allowed more time, so you can really build that atmosphere a lot more. You don't have to try to rush it. So I think, especially because it's not a movie, right? You can't resort to jump scares and this and that. So horror in comics is really about mood and establishing the proper aesthetic and mood, right? And if you can't do that, then sometimes some books may suffer because of that. But I agree with Johnny. Like 6 issues, then you could really kind of set a proper mood and atmosphere of just that creepiness or that sense of unrest and unease. Like with each page, you don't know, is something going to happen? Is something going to happen? Like you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop, right? So
it's a meaty book for sure.
Yeah. Alex, I was just wondering. I'm always curious about artists, and because nowadays a lot of people work digital, some people still do traditional. So, what's your preferred method of working these days?
Well, I mean, so this is, I'm drawing it. So what I'll do is I'll start by hand, like with the pencil and paper. I'll kind of sketch it all out, and then Dave might laugh at this. Then I'll kind of take those roughs and I'll draw up a little better on the computer and send those out as layouts, which are always look terrible because they're always
hilarious. They're so funny.
It's complete opposite of what the book looks like, because I got my start in animation, so my shorthand is like almost like Gary Larson, Jim Davis style.
That's a great way to describe it.
And so I'll put those out. Then but then when I really get into it, I'll oddly enough I draw in Flash, or it's called Animate now, but the old like think about 2005 when YouTube was brand new, like the old Flash animations.
Animations, yeah.
That's the program I draw comics in, and I'll ink it in there and do it all there, and then I'll throw it into like Photoshop and add basically special features like shading and lighting and the gray tone, stuff like that. And when that looks good, basically trying to make it look like a black and white comic, I'll send it to Dave and be like, "What do you think?" And Dave will be like, "Great," or fix that or change that, like arm to this. And I'm sure. And then coloring is just in Photoshop, and it's just doing it that way. So yeah, so I guess digital, and really it's so I don't have to sweat it like, oh shoot, I'm out of black ink or I'm out of like paper. And I don't have to worry about like the scanner being goofy or like anything like that. It's all in there. It makes the process so much faster, because both traditional and digital have their ups and downs. Because I mean, doing it traditionally, you can get some more like details in there. You can have some more fun with that. You can then go and sell that page. I've yet to sell too many JPEGs, but the thing is, to be able to the amount of control you have doing it digital, like I can draw something if like the head is too big or something, like no problem, I'll just throw a lasso and
resize it a little bit,
and you just move so much quicker. It's great. And but yeah, so the book is drawn in digital, but there's some like like when you see splatter in there, that's real paint splatter that I scan into the computer and I will
You scan it in, and then
So there's like little things like that where it's I'll use like real textures and kind of put them in there and just it's a multimedia process,
Nice.
or medium, not media.
Yeah, I was curious because like we were saying before, you're so prolific. Like you put out a lot of books, so I was just curious what your process was and and how you managed to pump out like so much work in the amount of time. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Well, anyway, your method, you've got it down. Like you seem to be like you said, you're got this book going. You're gonna have the Drive Like Hell, and then you have another book dropping next month. So yeah.
Well, for the record, that one was drawn during like COVID, so that one's been done for a while.
Okay, that one's been in the okay.
But yeah, these two. But yeah, Devil Wears My Face and Drive Like Hell were basically drawn back to back. Like I would draw Devil, then I'll jump right on to Drive Like Hell. Then I would once that issue was ended, I'll jump back over to Dave.
Did you ever send?
So I was kind of like going back and forth.
Did you ever send Dave a wrong page? Like, what the hell's this? Oh shit, that's from the other book. But I like it.
Well, it's funny, and we joked around this before. So, like at Comic-Con, both Dave, Rich, and I would hang out, and it was kind of like it's almost like I was dating these two other people, and now they're together, and now I'm really
it's like Alex in his joint custody situation between me and Rich.
Yeah. So we turned into like, I'm the kid, and I get Dave on weekends, and I got Rich on the other weekend.
And then you throw John in the mix there because I think you're working on. Is that completed the next volume of Sync or?
It's not. Well, it's John has it written. I just gotta start drawing it, which we'll probably really get into at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I'm like issue 12 is like halfway drawn.
Okay.
And but yeah, that'll be probably more on that next year, like early next year, like February, January, something like that. But it's up to me. John's work is done, and now I just need a swift kick in the butt to wrap it up.
Yeah. Slacker.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, David, before you speak, man, what about OZ issue 3, man? When can we expect that, brother?
So that's been written for ages. I finished writing the series before the first Kickstarter dropped. So it's just it's been a little slow going getting the art together. But Ruben Rojas actually just finished up inks on the first half of that book. And Whitney Kogar is in the process of coloring them now. She is also a little underwater with work. She's working with a small independent comic writer by the name of Scott Snyder on a new book.
Sweet kid.
Just that guy.
You'd say.
So those are coming together. Now we're kind of, we're aiming for a 2024 launch, just because like this is kind of a dead zone for Kickstarter right now. Once you get into November, December, January, February. So our goal is sometime between March and May of next year, kind of depending on just what my workload is looking like. I want to make sure that I can promote this thing as heavily as it deserves with our big finale. But rest assured, anybody who asked, they're like, oh, did he like ditch the OZ because of his Marvel work? And I'm like, no, that thing's been long written. It's just, the creative team, life happens. And sometimes I always joke, I say I feel like Spider-Man's landlord, where I'm always emailing like pages.
But
yeah, I didn't feel comfortable doing a Kickstarter without at least half the book done, and now half the book is inked. So I feel good about it now. So yeah, stay tuned. 2024, OZ is coming back in a big way.
So that's a good pro tip for people that are doing Kickstarters. Then, like, avoid the November, December, January months because
I would say so. I think with the holidays coming,
people shopping for Christmas and stuff. Their
budgets are tight.
The budget gets tight. Yeah,
people are traveling. They're not on social media.
Those PlayStation 5s are expensive, man. Damn.
I wouldn't know. I don't have one.
No, neither do I. I just have a hard time justifying paying that much for a game console. It's crazy.
$600, $700, something like that.
Yeah.
it's 500.
Still right around 600 Canadian. Yeah, fuck. So
all my friends are playing Spider-Man 2, and I'm just watching on the outside.
You know,
Yeah.
I've said this before. The last video game I really got into was Sonic and Knuckles back in like
Okay.
'96.
I love that game.
So, but now my son's getting into them, and I'm like, oh shoot, all right, where do I don't even know what to dig up. And I heard of this one. I'm like, okay, how much is this? And I'm like, $600.
yeah, $100 here in Canada for one game now. $100. I was like,
Yeah.
God damn it.
Like, like, sorry, kiddo, you're gonna have to deal with Tetris on the phone a little longer.
Hey, don't knock
There it
Tetris.
is.
That's
Oh,
a fucking
yeah, it's
classic,
fun,
man. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I load it up every once in a while and played it. It's a good. That was like, you know, all those like stupid little cell phone games that where you waste so much time.
Sure,
Tetris was the original. Tetris was the original.
Oh,
like
yeah.
time waster. You could spend so much time on that and just become obsessive
I
about
could
it.
pack
You
a
know?
car and a dishwasher like nobody's business because
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
works with the panel layouts for the books. You know, I'll think of those.
Yeah.
Need some more T-shaped panels. I don't know. No.
Well, this one isn't a Kickstarter. This is through Mad Cave, the devil that wears my face. So it's actually, it's in comic shops now, Sequential Geek. So if you want to read this, you could go pick it up at your comic shop as we speak. Issue 1 dropped 3 weeks ago, something like that. So
the beginning of them.
Yeah, so you could go pick that up right in comic shops. The Devil That Wears My Face from Mad Cave Studios, written by David Pepose and drawn by Alex Cormack, or I should say Alex Let There Be Blood Cormack. I'm going to refer to you like that every fucking time now.
Right.
Yeah. So, man, like I said before, it's so nice to see you get back. Well, you weren't gone for that long, because what did you do before you started working on Savage Avengers? Was your first Marvel book, right?
I had done the second OZ Kickstarter, and I did Scouts Honor and
Scouts Honor. Yeah, I think that was
anthologies, Nightmare Theater Horror Anthology, and Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, and the Help Anthology that the Hero Initiative did. So I promise I haven't been out for the game for that long. But I'm excited to come back with vengeance with Devil. It really is the kind of book that I've always wanted to make as a comics creator, with the kind of team that I've always wanted to work with. And so, like I said, it really does feel like the stars aligned on this book, and I'm so proud of the work that we've been doing on it.
You've been at it for a while. Spencer and Locke was a really fun book. I really enjoyed that one. I love the it's like the callback or the homage to Calvin and Hobbes, right? The little intros and stuff. I really dug that. I thought that was a fun way to change it up and kind of tell a little bit of his history, the backstory of him and stuff. It was a really clever little fun way to do it, and I really enjoyed that.
Thank
so
you. Well, knock on wood, we hope to do a third volume as soon as we get the rights back. And George Santiago Jr. and I are both really committed to doing that third volume and dedicating it to our late colorist Jason Smith. We're very excited to one day get that off the ground. It's just with the rights in legal limbo right now. There's no sense in us picking anything up right now, but the gears of justice are moving slowly, but we hope to have that settled sooner rather than later, along with all the other Action Lab creators whose work is entangled. And,
speaking of that, you guys are both rooted in indie comics, right? You came up through the ranks, and with all the stuff that's been going on with publishers lately, let's say like Aftershock with the Chapter 11, Z2 now, there has been a post just recently from Z2 Comics how they're not really paying a lot of their creators. Like you guys work. Is there any kind of advice you could give other creators that might not be as savvy or as much experience as you guys? Like what to look out for, or tips on like how to protect your rights? And do you have any tips for people out there so they don't get completely discouraged and want to give up? Because
it's so tough, because especially in the indie scene, when you're starting out, you often have so little leverage. And then especially if you're working with a publisher that is offering to pay a page rate,
Right.
you have often even less leverage to do that. And so, I mean, if you can, if you can get anything in your contract, for, if it's a place like an Action Lab, if you can figure out a reversion clause, that after X number of years, you can get your work back. That would, if you can get it, that's helpful. But, there's only so much you can predict as an independent creator. I mean, so many issues going on with publishers are so far behind the scenes, and it's so much more of a bird's eye view than what you are privy to as somebody on the ground.
Yeah.
That, it really is just kind of every deal you make, you are rolling the dice to some extent. And that's why, ultimately for me, it's always about like, are you proud of the work? Is it work that, is distributed through, into your comic shops? Is it something that you can buy copies of that you can sell long term? And, but even that, I mean, I know that there are publishers, you mentioned Aftershock, and I know, there were a lot of creators of really talented people that I respect and am friends with who, they got left in a lurch midway through, and there's no way that anybody could predict that. And so, that unfortunately, I think it's the reality of the business right now is that, there are kind of act of God, situations that you can't account for. And all you can kind of do is try to get what's owed to you, and beyond that, just keep going. I wish I had better advice, but that's really all I got.
No, I was just
I'll throw in, just for artist's sake, make sure you know what you're getting for your page rate and all that type of stuff, and know when you're supposed to be paid. Like I'll normally get paid, like not to go into too much detail, but like about halfway through the issue is when I'll put in for like the first invoice. So for the other guy's sake, they're not thinking like, oh, I just paid this guy a bunch of money and now they just flew off and we don't know who they are. So at least they're getting something, but know when that check is going to come in. If it's late, don't keep working. Like wait till you get that check until it's in the bank, because I know that happened with some guys with the Aftershock. They just like, oh, I'm sure it'll come in later. I'll keep working. I'm gonna keep working. No, if that sucker's late, just pencils down and just be like, what's up? And and just until that happens, but it's tricky, and you don't want to, jump the gun. It's, don't be afraid to ask, say, hey, this is a business. So, so drop them a line, say what's going on. I know this was late. No big deal if it's just something like light, but a lot of times they'll be like, oh shoot, something happened. Or it's just like kind of a nudge, like, oh shoot, that's right. Hey, here's your money, whatever. And sometimes it's innocent, sometimes it's not. But yeah, it's tricky. Just kind of just be smart about what you're doing. And in worst case scenario, always make sure you can dig up a lawyer somewhere. But hopefully it doesn't have to come to that, But,
yeah.
But that being said, there's also a lot of decent people out there, and it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of great companies out there that are working hard to get these books out, because a lot of these people want these books to get out, and they're like us. They love comics, they love the business, and they're doing what they can do to make life great for everybody. So there's my 2 cents.
Cool. No, I just because you see a lot of threads on like Twitter and people just back and forth, and just how they get discouraged and want to quit comics because they just don't see.
That whole hashtag that came out a little while ago was like comics broke me, right?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, what was that? That was like 4 months ago or 3 months ago.
I was out of town for my cousin's wedding when that happened, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get away from everything. I'm just gonna be turned off of like social media, just everything. I'm here for my cousin. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have this beautiful wedding. It's gonna be lovely. It's all over. I'm like, all right, what's going on in the world? Here's Twitter, comics, it's all these subs. I'm like, oh Jesus. I'm like, oh, I forgot what I was getting back into. All right, let's go. Jump right back in the pool and start swimming.
because I know you guys have had some pretty good success. Like David, Spencer and Locke. I mean, you did 2 volumes of that with Action Lab, who, like, now you're waiting to get the rights back or trying to get the rights back. But I mean, that was a great book. You
Also
had
did go into the chapel.
yeah, to the chapel, yeah. And then you had a pretty successful Kickstarter campaigns, right? Especially with the Oz or OZ there. So like you went that route. And was it your experience with Action Lab? Did that kind of be like, fuck it, I'm just going to go to Kickstarter and start crowdfunding and take it into my own hands, right? And then you don't have to rely on like someone else as much to, to wait for the payment.
I don't think it was as much in response to Action Lab, although I did have issues with them, around that time. I think it was just, just by nature of what the industry was going through. It was the beginning of the pandemic. Diamond had their shutdown. A lot of publishers were really kind of reducing books that they were picking up. Oftentimes, some of them even kind of canceling, ungreenlighting books that they had already greenlit.
Yeah.
And so I just, I had a concept that I felt very strongly about. And I had friends like Charlie Stickney and Pat Shand and Russell Nahelty and Ryland Grant, all of whom have had success on Kickstarter, all of whom telling me you should really do this. It's a whole different audience. And so, we were able to kind of, introduce ourselves to the platform with, I think, some of my best work. And, I think it's a platform that I will continue going to as long as it's viable. But, I think there's something, everything feeds into each other. Like I said before, same way that, Big Two and independent work, they feed into one another. I think direct market and Kickstarter, they feed into each other, where I'm able to kind of introduce these 2 constituencies to one another. And hopefully if they like the OZ, they might pick up The Devil That Wears My Face and vice versa. And so, it's always trying new things, because I guess if that's any advice that I would give any aspiring creators, it's just try your best not to put all your eggs into one basket. Because, like we're talking about, publishers go under, regimes change and suddenly might not be as friendly or as responsible as they should be. And so having other options and cultivating other relationships and other platforms, it really is a win-win for you, especially, a thing like self-publishing and crowdfunding is then you don't have to wait for anybody else's permission.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a crazy, 4 years, eh? Like just before the pandemic, comics were hitting like kind of a high, then the pandemic hit and they're like, the industry's going to collapse. And then, as the pandemic started to slow down and come back to normal, there was a spike again where things were selling like crazy. And now we're back down to kind of publishers are like having problems or cutting back or, being more selective about the books they're putting out. It seems like they've all cut back. Like even Image now, you look at them, they're not putting out as many books anymore as they were, like, let's say a year and a half, 2 years ago. So it's been such a roller coaster. It's insane. And like you said, it's so hard to predict, like what's coming, what's going to work, what isn't. It's insane. And I think maybe Kickstarter, from the pandemic, maybe Kickstarter is probably the platform that benefited the most from the pandemic, because like you said, Diamond shut down, things shut down. So a lot of people turned to Kickstarter to like get projects out and continue working through that platform.
That was kind of like the one nice thing with the pandemic was like so many people were like, like the whole idea, like everybody's just chilling out and like, binging shows and stuff like that. But a lot of people are like, oh, this is my opportunity to finally do one of these projects. So like I was lucky enough to basically work through the pandemic like nonstop, because like people were coming out of the woodwork be like, hey, I've always wanted to do a book. Are you up for it? And I got a lot of really neat, like this book I'm about to, that's coming out next month was one of those books. Like, hey,
one of those books. Yeah.
I always wanted to try this. And my buddy, Ben Goldsmith, he wrote it and sent it over to me, and I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun. And just jumped right in. So, and some of those projects became something. Some of them kind of got as far as like a 6-page pitch packet, and that was that. But yeah, it was kind of nice. That was like the one like silver lining that whole experience was a lot of people like, I have some time to, like, I've always been talking about doing this. Now I got 5 minutes. I'm gonna go do it. And And yeah, like I said, some of them worked, some didn't, but hey, they gave it a shot, right? And that's better than not.
Yeah, putting your time like to good use, right? Like anything
Absolutely,
you had on
yeah,
the back
you know?
burner, you're like, all right, now's my opportunity.
Right.
Or like maybe if you're so busy doing other things, you're like a project that was more personal to you, like more of a like one of your own like little pet projects,
Sure,
and like
absolutely.
now
Yeah,
I have the time. Now I can develop it more and
yeah, like
really
this is
push
something
it.
that's always been on the back burner for like for like anytime I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about it. Or like oh, what if I tried that? Like one of those type of things that you're just kind of kicking around forever. And yeah, a lot of that kind of came out of the pandemic, which was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you're kind of seeing some of those the fruits of that labor these days, which is really nice.
So this back to your book, The Devil That Wears My Face. It's been out for about 3 weeks. How have the sales been? Like, is it going to a second printing? Is there any news on that yet, or do you know, or is it still too early?
I don't know. I don't have any news to share on that one. Fingers crossed. I feel like people have responded well to the book, and I keep hearing of stores selling out. So
after all of this, it's going to go to like a 4th and 5th printing. Right?
Well,
how did we get here, bump?
Yeah, exactly. That'd be awesome for you guys.
I'm not privy to any of that, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think it's still kind of early because it's fairly recent. I mean, it hasn't even been out for a month yet, and this is coming out monthly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
everybody in the Cave is still happy with us, as far as I'm aware. So it's got to be doing.
They're happy with us.
They're still answering emails. That's nice.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas like to further this if it sells well, or this is the initial one for now and you haven't really put much thought into it, or is this like a one and done? Like this was meant to be a six issue arc and then the story's done. We'll move on to other things.
I had intended to write this as kind of a standalone story, but I mean, never say never. I mean, I think if the right story presents itself and it's a story that Alex likes, because I would never want to do another one of these without Alex. I think, of course I would team up with Alex on anything. But no plans currently, but never say never.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, like you said, this is your first horror book. Have you kind of gotten bit by the horror bug? You got like any to do anything else horror related in the near
I would love
future?
to. Alex and I were already talking about something at the con that I got to start fleshing out. I think the problem with having done Devil is that all of my ideas since then have been horror related, and I got to have to phase these out a little bit. But yeah, no, I love the genre. It's super fun. You have to be very deliberate with how you're kind of telling that story, which is, I think, a really fun challenge. Figuring out how you're going to translate horror into a medium where the reader controls the speed. And you can't do, there aren't a lot of editing tricks that you can do. There's no sound. It's a really fun genre though. And, between that and Nightmare Theater and Cthulhu's Hard to Spell and even the whole one shot that I did earlier this year, I love the genre and I'm excited to keep at it for sure.
That's helpful too.
Is it kind of therapeutic in a way where you could get out all of this, like, like I'd love to kill it. Like someone pisses you off, so you're like, I'm gonna write the most gruesome torture death scene ever, and it's just the way to get it out of your system.
I mean, certainly, that's certainly a benefit to all that. And but yeah, it's just I think it is cathartic to write characters that just they do not care about society's rules, and they do not restrain themselves in any way. Legion is certainly my favorite character in the whole book to write, because he kind of gets the best one-liners and the most over-the-top moments, and seeing the way that he like brutally murders people. I'm like, not that I like, that's obviously not like aspirational on my end, but like it's fun to see like a villain who enjoys their work, and doesn't let anything like slow them down. It's a really fun genre, and I thought it would be fun to play with, and it's like twice as fun to
Yeah.
play with now that I've been in it.
Nice. Very good. So Johnny, do you have anything else you want to ask? Is there any other things you want to touch on?
Man, I just want to thank Alex very much for issue 6 of Sync. It is so glorious, man. Just the silent issue.
Thank you.
And I think that, like, if anybody wants to see, like, Alex at his just penultimate form, man, check out any issue of Sync, but issue 6 really highlights just how dynamic he is, because it's a silent issue. And the rain, man, like, I cannot imagine trying to draw that rain.
Oh yeah,
that color it and stuff. That is just
that issue has my all-time favorite sound effect ever in a book, where it's not giving anything away, but there's a part where what happens is this lady's being chased by these psycho clowns and through this dump, and what happens is this one clown is like distracted by something. They think they found her, but they didn't, and she's up like on a hill pushing a washing machine off the side, and it falls out, and he's just kind of like, oh, look at that, and it smashes him. And I made sure it was basically explode. And John Lees, he put in the sound effect, fucked. And that just always cracked me up. I'm like, yep, yeah, that sums it up. But thank you.
And yeah, I just got to thank David for being just one of the most genuine, awesome people. I remember I only had like 12 people following me probably online, and I did I hate to bring it back to this book, but I did a post about how great Spencer and Locke was, and he's like, "Oh, dude, thank you so much." And he sent me PDFs for Gone to the Chapel for free, just like, "Hey, man, thanks for," and hey, check this out. And like, it's really cool to see that, like, he still got that a genuineness to him, even though he's like popped off. You know what I mean? He gave us the issue of Devil That Wears My Face, and I mean, he's just so genuine still, man. And that's really cool to see, man, especially with somebody that is like, I always wanted to have you on the show, but like after you started writing for Marvel, I didn't know if like we could land you. But like,
I know. I love talking about it in my work all the time. I appreciate all the kind words. I feel like it takes a village to get any sort of traction in this business. And I feel like I've been very fortunate to really have like an army of readers and retailers and press who have kind of, raised the flag for me, through all this. So I appreciate you having us on. I appreciate you spreading the good word. And you keep reading them. I'll keep writing them. And hopefully, I always tell everybody I want to be a 30-year man in this business. And so, I think I'm at year 6, so I got a little ways to go. But we're 20% there. So let's keep it up.
And out of your big 2 stuff, what do you think is the most fun to write? Which one have you had the biggest?
Oh boy,
fun?
I mean, they're all fun for different reasons. I mean, Savage Avengers, I would have written that for 100 issues if the market could sustain it. I love writing team books, and that was just such a fun group of characters. I had a lot of fun with Moon Knight City of the Dead, getting to explore Mark Spector's character. I love the idea of just this guy who was just a genuinely bad guy, getting a second chance at life and trying to turn things around. And that story in particular is all about forgiveness, and so I think that's been a fun through line. And our new Punisher book is super fun. I've likened it to John Wick meets The Fugitive. Nobody ever expects on the bingo card, like, hey, Legacy Punisher. But when Marvel asked and said, hey, we want to introduce a brand new character, it was a really fun challenge. And I thought to myself, going back to my influences, I said, Marvel doesn't have a John Wick. And it would be kind of cool to do that, to introduce that kind of character, sort of as the same way that Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider explored muscle car culture instead of motorcycles.
Yeah,
we're doing kind of the gun fu elements, and so it's a very fun character that we're just trying to be additive, to the Punisher canon, and seeing the artwork that Dave Wachter has done in that book. It is
it's stellar. So good. Yeah, Dave showed me like just a couple of pages at New York, and for my sake, I was like, oh, I got to step it up. This is really good.
I have been so fortunate. This is sort of my summer of working with like incredibly talented artists. And so
when is that Punisher book dropping?
November 8th.
November 8th?
November 8th, first issue will be out. Our first 4 issues are really going to, it's going to be a sort of Joe Garrison's full origin story. So I know there are a lot of questions about the character and who is he and why is he doing what he's doing, and why, what would possess somebody to take on the Punisher name in story in 616 Marvel. And I assure you, we're going to get to all that. By the time you read issue 4, you will understand who Joe Garrison is and why he's doing this, and why he winds up using that name. So lots of fun stuff. But I can say that is, without spoiling too much, I would say even a core through line through this origin story. So stay tuned.
And the Moon Knight you're writing, that's going to be, is that going to be Mark Spector, or is that going to be the new Moon Knight? Because I heard that they're replacing Mark Spector as well.
Oh, this has been Mark Spector. Issue 4 just came out shortly before Comic-Con. So issue 5, our big finale, comes out. I think final order cutoff was today for that issue. So I think it's coming out, November 22nd, the same day as the Devil That Wears My Face #2.
Oh, yeah. That's a double header for you.
Yeah.
Double the David Pepose.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pepose, I mean. Yeah. Well, I'd like to just echo Johnny's sentiment, because I've followed both of you for a little while now, and you do take time and devote time to your followers, your readers, so it's nice to see creators that interact with their readership, and like you both do. Like anytime you see something, or you'll just give a quick shout out, like, oh, thanks for this or thanks for that. And I think people really appreciate that. And it's nice to see that 2 accomplished guys like you still humble and still take the time to interact with your audience, so
Thanks.
It's really appreciated.
Well, it's a dream job. And I the day that I'm not grateful for it is the day I don't deserve it. So
yeah. And I appreciate anybody saying anything,
yeah,
especially positive things,
Yeah.
There are things you can keep them to yourself, but positive stuff. We're always very grateful.
Yeah, it seems to people like just to go to the negative so quickly, so easily. It's but
The internet.
It is what it is,
Yeah. Well,
focus on the positive.
Yeah.
If you can't take a hit, you got to play a different sport. So
That's
good.
Absolutely.
Good analogy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So man, I love your work. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
We were so stoked when I told Johnny. I was like, oh yeah, man, he said he'd come on. He's gonna bring Alex too. I was like, that's gonna be so fucking cool. So thanks so much for coming on. Johnny was stoked when I broke the news to him, and it was a lot of fun, man. You guys great to talk to, great sense of humor. And we'd love to have you back anytime if ever you're interested in coming back, man. The door's wide open, and
thank you,
man. It was a blast.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
All right, Johnny, man.
We'll be back tomorrow evening. We're going to be doing a quick hot flash episode for Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Cookie's going to be with us. It's going to be like a quick 15-minute us talking about like the issue and what we think of it. We actually did our first hot flash was for this book, The Devil That Wears My Face. We did that a couple weeks ago. Really fun episode. So if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend checking that out. I think we had a good discussion about the issue, kind of talked about what we liked, and had a couple good laughs about it. So
Mary's thirstiness.
Yeah, Maria's thirstiness. Here, I'm gonna throw it up right now. Oh my God! Like the way she. I love that. But yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, talking about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Till then.